Israeli media reports the U.S. confirming Israel's stay in southern Lebanon until April. The Biden administration approves $8 billion arms sale to Israel. And Damascus airport reopens January 7th, easing Syrians' return. It's 8 p.m. Cairo local time, and you're now watching Qnews. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Israeli broadcasting has reported that U.S. General Jasper Jeffers informed the Lebanese army of Israel's intention to remain in southern Lebanon until April. Israeli media stated that this move would be justified by claims that the Lebanese army is not meeting the terms of agreement and that Hezbollah is attempting to reorganize in the region despite the ceasefire agreement calling for the Lebanese army's deployment in these areas. The head of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Mariana Zbolaric, has emphasized on Saturday that the ceasefire in Lebanon must be upheld, urging the continued flow of humanitarian aid to support civilians in the country. She stressed that Lebanese civilians cannot bear the consequences of a collapse in the ceasefire, which could lead to more deaths and destruction after the expiration of the 60-day deadline. The Lebanese news agency has reported that Israeli tanks and bulldozer advanced into the town of Maroun al-Ras and the Aqaba Maroun neighborhood, firing a shell at a house in the area. Lebanese media also reported that the Israeli occupation army advanced into several villages and areas in southern Lebanon, continuing to violate the ceasefire with Hezbollah. The Lebanese army has announced that 4 of its members were moderately injured in a renewed clash in Baalbek between the army and Syrian armed groups. Clashes resumed in the area along the Lebanese-Syrian borders after militants targeted a unit of the Lebanese army. Secretary General of Hezbollah Naim Qassem has stated that they thwarted the occupation's goals despite widespread destruction and aggression. Hezbollah Secretary General has stated that Israel has advanced only a few hundred meters into the territory of over 64 days, and Israel failed to advance deeper due to their strength. For further analysis on the current situation in Lebanon, we're joined from Beirut by the military affairs and international relations expert, General Baha Halal. Good evening to you, sir, and welcome to Qnews. Now, what is the strategic region behind Israel's intention to remain in southern Lebanon until April?
Practically, after the ceasefire being implemented on the 27th of November 2024, the ceasefire became effective, which commits Israel to withdraw gradually within 60 days from the Lebanese territories. Today we are surprised that the Israeli army decided after 35 days of the period, meaning something like half of the period where Israel should withdraw from the territories it incursioned into in the south of Lebanon. Now Israel says it wants to keep some military posts and to remain in these areas, i.e. to remain occupying these areas. The strategic objectives for Israel for doing so, the things they wish to achieve is first is to get Israel to make use of as long period as possible to use the time to attack certain military positions which Israel considers as strongholds for the resistance in the areas where Israel could not incurge into before. But now, under the ceasefire agreement, and under the 60 days, Israel is abusing this time to get in, blow up, destroy without any deterrence. So Israel wants to do whatever it wants to do and to achieve certain military objectives that were not achieved during the land war. It couldn't get into Qawzah village before, but now it's incursioning. When they tried to get into that village during the war, there were 15 Merkava tanks destroyed. But now the Merkava Israeli tanks are beyond that village and got into that triangle that was a stronghold before. So the first objective is to destroy more and more of the military capabilities of the resistance. Secondly is to pressure the Lebanese army, to push the Lebanese army to have a confrontation, to create a problem, a military problem between the Lebanese army and the resistance environment, the resistance fighters. So Israel wants to establish this kind of military confrontation between the resistance and the Lebanese army. Thirdly, Israel wants to prevent the South Lebanon citizens from coming back to their villages under the pretext that the resistance is hiding within the civilian homes. That's why Israel wants to keep these border villages, some 60 villages, to keep these villages under the Israeli control and with no inhabitants, no life within it, and just to keep it as a buffer zone. Fourthly, Israel wants to link the high hills of the south of Lebanon that are overseeing the Palestinian territories in Maroun al-Ras, Jabal al-Ward in Anata, and Talat Aweda in Anisa. He wants to connect these hills with the Sharafa and Kafar Shuba hills. Israel wants to connect these hills together in order to control the area so as it would be part of the Israeli project in Syria to be there in Jabal al-Sheikh in Syria and to use these two areas to oversee the Litani River. So Israel wants to have boots on the ground near that Litani River and to have an artillery presence there. So that's a strategic statement by one of the Israelis. As far as you get your fire, as far as you get your influence.
General Halal, from your point of view, what could be the main causes or what ignited this situation fueling the ongoing clashes between Israel and Lebanon? Again, what were the causes behind fueling the already ongoing clashes between Israel and Lebanon? What ignited or the reason behind the eruption of Israel's new clash?
Actually, to understand and answer, I would say that you assume why Israel is doing the violations currently and why breaching the ceasefire agreement and not committed to the ceasefire, right?
Right. Right. Because there seems to be new actions made by Israel and new decisions. So what ignited that?
I believe that the Israeli enemy, since it started to accept the ceasefire on the 27th of November 2024, Israel believed that it could, under this ceasefire, it could continue pushing the Lebanese army to go and dismantle or even attack the homes and prevent the Lebanese citizens who live in these villages that are on the adjacency of the Palestinian occupied territories, to prevent them from coming back. But the agreement did not entitle this. The agreement approved the return of the Lebanese citizens to their homes and that the Lebanese army becomes in charge of security assisted by UNIFIL. So the Lebanese army is not committed to attack or to target the Lebanese citizens and keep them away from their homes. Because these people could be resistance and could not be resistance, but it's about not having weapons in the hands of these people, and there should be no weapons in this area except that of the Lebanese army. So the Israeli enemy is doing its violations there now for two reasons. First, Israel wants to link the return of the settlers into their settlements in the north of Palestine, and wants to link that to the return of the Lebanese in the south to their homes. Israel wants to postpone and delay the return of the Lebanese citizens to their homes in the south till it can return its own settlers to the north. The geostrategic change that happened in Syria, because Israel got into Syria and controlled Jabal al-Sheikh and controlled some 5,000 square kilometers. It controlled the Horan Valley, and now it's close to the now it's trying to get to Suwaida and the Druze Mountain and Arab Mountain. So Israel goes there into Syria, claiming that it has established new operational reality to be able to attack in case a new war is erupted, so as to circle the resistance from the south of Lebanon and from the east of Lebanon through Syria, so as to control this.
clear. General Hilal, that was the military affairs and international relations expert, General Hilal from Beirut. We thank you so much for joining us here on Qnews. And back to our bulletin, where Egypt's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Migration, Badr Abdul Ati, and his Lebanese counterpart, Abdullah Bouhabib, have discussed the latest developments in Lebanon in light of the upcoming session of the Lebanese parliament to elect a new president. Egypt's Minister Abdul Ati stressed the need for intensive efforts to achieve a Lebanese-led consensus to end Lebanon's presidential vacancy free from foreign intervention or interference. The ministers also discussed Syria's political and security situation, emphasizing support for the Syrian people's will, state unity, and a Syrian-led political transition without foreign influence. And moving on to the latest developments in Gaza, the Biden administration has approved $8 billion arms sale to Israel. According to Axios, the proposed deal, which requires approval from both the House of Representatives and Senate committee, include munitions for fighter jets and attack helicopters, artillery, shells, small diameter bombs, and warheads. In August, the Biden administration approved over $20 billion in new weapons sales to Israel, which included 50 F-15 fighter jets, 33,000 tank cartridges, and 50,000 explosive mortar cartridges. Israeli occupation forces have ordered the immediate evacuation of two northern Gaza's most critical hospitals. On Friday, Israeli soldiers surrounded the Indonesian hospital in Beit Lahia, where many displaced Palestinians had sought shelter. A separate evacuation order was issued for Al Lauda Hospital in Jabalia.
We have boxes of food here that WFP has delivered into.
Physicians for Human Rights Israel have stated that the destruction of the health system in northern Gaza will be complete if Israel is allowed to evacuate the last two remaining operational medical centers. In a statement on social media, the group said that if the Indonesian hospital and Al Lauda hospital are forced to close by Israel's military, there will be no medical centers left in northern Gaza. The organization also called on all international actors to intervene immediately and halt Israel's ethnic cleansing in northern Gaza. A pediatrician at Nasser Hospital in Gaza has predicted that more children will be admitted for hypothermia treatment given the current number in intensive care. As cold weather hits Gaza, the pediatrician warned that more children will be affected by hypothermia, especially due to the increasing number of premature births and babies born with low birth weight in the war zone. At least 7 infants have died from hypothermia so far, and aid groups are urgently calling for adequate shelter, blankets, warm cloths, food, and medicine. These essential supplies have been blocked by Israel's siege on the territory. Protesters in Israel have chased Yuli Edelstein, head of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee in the Knesset, demanding the return of detainees held in Gaza. During the chase, a protester held up a sign reading all of them humanitarian, emphasizing the demand for the release of all detainees, not just those included in the first phase of the potential ceasefire agreement. Moving to Syria, Syrian Civil Aviation and Air Transport Authority head Ashhad al-Salibi has announced that Damascus International Airport will resume international flights starting January 7th. That came after a temporary closure after the fall of al-Assad regime. Earlier reports suggested that the airport might reopen soon with initial internal or trial flights planned to ensure operational readiness. The reopening will ease Syrians' return to their homeland. On December 8th, all airport employees were evacuated, halting flights and operations due to the regime's collapse. The Syrian embassy in Cairo has announced that it will grant free flight tickets to Syrian nationals wishing to return to Syria. The embassy also stated that it is providing free document authentication for Syrian citizens, in addition to extending passport validity for an additional 6 months free of charge for one time. This is part of implementing the directives of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates, Asad al-Shaybani. Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib al-Mikati stated that Syria's military operation chief Ahmed al-Shara invited him to Damascus to discuss strengthening bilateral ties. Mikati noted in a statement that he spoke with al-Shara over the phone about an incident involving the Lebanese army on the al-Beqa border with Syria. Al-Shara assured him that Syrian authorities had taken the necessary measures to restore calm. Syrian Foreign Minister Asad Hassan al-Shaybani has announced plans to visit Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Jordan following his first official foreign trip to Saudi Arabia earlier this week. In a social media post on Friday, al-Shaybani announced that he would visit the 3 countries this week to support stability, security, economic recovery, and build distinguished partnership. And moving on to Russia, the Ukrainian Air Force has said its air defense downed 34 out of 81 drones launched by Russia overnight. It added that 47 drones were lost, referring to Ukraine's use of electronic warfare to redirect Russian drones. Russia's Federal Security Services has announced it had thwarted a large attack in the city of Yekaterinburg and detained 4 teenagers who were allegedly planning to donate a bomb in a crowded area. Russia's Federal Security Services added that it had seized components from a homemade explosive device and that investigators in the Sverdlovsk region had opened a criminal case. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we've been covering. Israeli media reports the U.S. confirming Israel's stay in southern Lebanon until April. The Biden administration approves $8 billion arms sale to Israel. And Damascus airport reopens January 7th, easing Syrians' return. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EGY to stay informed. Many thanks for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.